Today I'm going to be talking about the light novel Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, The Silver Sugar Master and the Obsidian Fairy, Volume 1 by Miri Mikawa, and illustration by Aki. And I will just also say very quickly that this is also an anime series that's out right now, and I'm loving watching the anime version of it and would highly recommend it. So quickly from the back, rush to the Royal Candy Fair. Anne Halford is a candy crafter determined to follow in her mother's footsteps and become a silver sugar master, a title bestowed only by royalty by winning the first place in the Royal Candy Fair. The journey to the capital will be dangerous, however, so she purchases Shale, a handsome but foul-mouthed fairy, to be her bodyguard. Anne wishes to befriend her new companion, but in this kingdom where fairies are treated as property, Shale wants nothing to do with humans. Will this journey with her change his mind, and will Anne arrive safely at the fair? So this is a fantasy series that does deal with having some element of servants or a slavery in them. In this case, it's the fairies. This is not an isekai, it's a straight fantasy, I want to say like fairy tale, like literally. And it's just set in this fantasy world where for years, probably centuries, like the fairies were ruling over everything. But then as time passed, the humans gained more strength and ability over the fairies, and they discovered that if they removed one of the wings of the fairies, that they could pretty much entrap them and they would become their servants. So that is the world in which we're stepped in here, where now the humans have control over everything, and a lot of the fairies are mistreated. And there's all different types of fairies too. There's tall, more full human-esque fairies, which is what Shale is like as a warrior fairy. And I guess there's also like pet fairies, like their companions. And I think you probably can catch my drift of how they treat the pet ones. Anyway, but then there's like the little more like sprite fairies as well, and one of them is one of the characters in here too. In fact, that's one of the main things we see. So I'm gonna roll back a little bit. So right at the beginning, Anne is set to go off and try to, make it to the fair so that she can be judged as this. And we do discover that the biggest reason for this is that her mother just passed away a few months ago, and her mother was a sugar crafter and a sugar master crafter. Is it a master? Yeah, silver sugar master. So her mother was a master. And I guess if I'm remembering how this went correctly, if you win and you get appointed that, then you get to create masterpieces for this event that happens that sends the dead on to, their next life, their afterlife. So Anne would really like to reach the master and make something special for her mom. And then it's whether or not she's actually at that master level yet. Now, she's really good. So part of it is also like seeing Anne develop as a crafter, and then also getting to know this world. So, in the way of things, she is a young girl traveling alone. I believe she's only 15, and as such, she decides that she needs a protector who will escort her there. And leaving behind is this young guy that wants to be her fiance, and he was aggressively trying to get her to stay, but she's like, no. So that's a whole other issue that's happening too. And I only mentioned him briefly because he does come back into the picture. So she heads off to this market. It's a market where you can buy fairies. Along the way, she does see this one guy that's abusing this smaller fairy, and he's like trying to crush his wing, which is essentially like squeezing the heart of the fairy, like it will literally kill them. So she ends up like breaking that whole thing off and giving the wing back to the fairy, in a sense sort of freeing him, and he just like takes off saying about how terrible humans are. And we do see him again later. And then she continues on her path to get her own fairy servant. I know, there's ethical issues here. But much like in Aladdin, she does promise Shao after she buys him, not that he believes her, that after he's done escorting her, she will set him free. So that's the whole deal that she makes. And of course, yeah, like Shao doesn't believe her because he doesn't trust humans. They've done a lot of damage to fairies and betrayed them, so rightly so, he doesn't trust that whole thing. So what happens, like, what follows is their journey to get to the fair, and a lot of stuff happens, and then it ends with the competition, and I can't get into more details because of spoilers, but it's really good. So once again, I have found a series that fits into my love of shoujo. This is very much like just fantasy shoujo, and it's lovely, and I love the anime, and I'm having such a good time just enjoying my life with these things. It's brought a lot of joy to me this year because I was getting so sick of the same old stuff being offered, and this, if you haven't watched it yet, I would recommend watching the anime, but also try picking up the light novel. I do have volume 2 of this too, I believe. I don't have it on my cart, but I'm pretty sure I have volume 2 of this as well, so I'll probably be reading this pretty soon. I actually just like grabbed and read this, so I've been doing my TBR reading, but I had finished my 2 February TBR reads, and I was like, well, I want to keep going with my light novels. I don't want to stop because I finished them fairly early in the month. So I grabbed Sugar Apple Fairy Tale because it looked so cute, and I'm so glad I did. It hit a spot and it was just so good, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, they have an anime for it, so then I started to watch that, and it's so good. And yeah, so I'm very happy, and I would recommend this, especially to fantasy readers and shoujo readers, especially if you like fairy fantasy, because you get some nice fairies here. And that is it for this video. Until next time.